So, hello and welcome to the New Gig Podcast. I'm your host, Glenn Hodgson, and today I'm delighted to be joined by the Customer Success Manager for Full Scope Freelancer, Ben Gallagher. How you doing, Ben?
I'm very well. Thanks again for inviting me on today.
Brilliant. Now, Ben, give us a little bit of a background on yourself. Where did it all start? What have you been doing, and what's keeping you busy these days?
What's keeping me busy? Well, I am a longtime freelancer. So I work now for a company that helps freelancers. And the reason for that is because I was a freelancer for a long time myself. And so I'm kind of scratching my own itch. I had many, many years of kind of fumbling about, wondering what the hell I was doing, asking a lot of questions, not getting very good answers. So about 15 years, I was a freelancer in the audio industry, actually, before this. So I did a lot of work as a composer. I worked on video games and commercials, and I also did things like editing podcasts, for example, such as yours,
Yep.
and all kinds of stuff in between. And yeah, as I grew and learned over the years, I slowly started to realize, oh, some of these tools that they sell to you online for managing, organizing your business, they actually make a little bit of sense to perhaps pay for and employ. And so I started just collecting all the infinity stones, so to speak, on my website. And then I started to do some email marketing. And then I wanted to manage all my social media. And then I realized like, oh, actually one of those CRMs I've heard about is actually pretty useful as well. I'm going to grab that. And so over the years, I started collecting all these things. And I also started to blog and to kind of teach what I was learning at the same time. So I would be talking about freelancing and using all these tools to kind of manage and structure everything you're doing. But I had a hard time, uh, I had a hard time convincing, or not convincing, but I knew that people who are just starting out as freelancers or starting small businesses, being self-employed, whatever you want to identify as, so to speak, here. I knew they couldn't just go all in on six different paid tools all at once from the
Mm.
get-go. And so I always had this itch that I wanted to scratch, which was to have a kind of just a multi-tool that had everything in it and was easy to work with and kind of just made your life a little simpler and reduced a bit of the hassle of kind of looking at for every different aspect of your business. Okay, there are these five different companies that offer these kind of tools, and this one costs this much, and this one has a free trial that's this long, and how could I do that? And so after many years of trying the tools, using the tools, blogging about the tools, teaching people about the tools, actually doing coaching as well, I decided I wanted to work with a company that would help me solve this problem. And Full Scope Freelancer is that company. So now I basically help freelancers to get the tools that they need to start and scale proper businesses through Full Scope, which is the all-in-one tool that I wish I had 15 years ago when I was fumbling about in the dark, just barely getting by, wondering what the heck I was doing most days.
Mm. Well, this is a really interesting thing because I think it is. When I speak to freelancers as well, or people, should I say, that are thinking of taking the step, one of the big things that sort of prevents them from making the leap is the fact, well, I don't know what I don't know. In
Hmm.
a company or an organization, there's people I can turn to. I know where they are. They know the tools, the services that I need, and I can turn to them. If I'm by myself and I don't have the community around me, how do I know what I should be using? And you don't be wasting money on things that are not necessary, but at the same time, you want to make your life easier. And if you can actually sort of find some products, services, tools that will actually simplify and increase the efficiencies, then this is, of course, something that's essential there, Benjamin.
Yeah, bingo. It's uh, even as it becomes more of a hot topic, more of a thing that people are considering freelancing or just going out on their own. The education is also a serious part of it because, like you said, you don't know what you don't know, and so
Yeah.
you kind of jump into the deep end of the pool. And suddenly you're sucking down water and realizing you forgot your flotation device. And so yeah, not only having the right tools, but also being in an ecosystem and an environment where you can actually learn, hopefully, how to best use those tools, why they are there in the first place, what are they
Yeah.
for, how should you use them, how can you get obviously the most out of them so that you can meet your actual goal, which is to, of course, make a great living as a freelancer doing the kind of
Yeah.
work that you're inspired to do.
Exactly. And I think there's an interesting thing there as well, Benjamin, this element of, there are certain basic things that every freelancer needs to have, and tools and services that they need to make the most of. But also, I can imagine you work with a lot of different people. I mean, whether it's sound, musician, your background through
Mhm.
to computer programmers, artists, healthcare professionals. I can imagine you sort of look after a number of sectors, a number of people who have different scopes and different activities under this broad umbrella that we call freelancing and the future of work.
Yes, you're absolutely right. We have everyone on our platform from like inspired 17-year-olds who have, seen TikToks about side hustles and want to try, selling something, doing something online. Everyone from that person all the way up to like 60 plus year old former teachers who have now retired, but they still want to teach and maybe have a little bit of extra income. So they're doing private tutoring for example, on the side, and also need some tools to manage their online presence and calendar and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we really run the full gamut. So yeah, freelancing is a quite a large umbrella term, and that's why it's sometimes people will write us actually be like, oh no, what I'm doing, I wouldn't exactly call it freelancing. Is full scope freelancer right for me? I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, it's, self-employed, freelancer, small business owner, it kind of all depends how you view it yourself. But at the end of the day, we're all starting businesses, usually businesses of one, at least at the beginning, and
Yeah.
just, trying to embark on our own and find a way to, yeah, to make a little money from the kind of products and services we enjoy providing.
Yeah, I think this is really a great example of what's actually happening because so much of the word freelancer has become sadly very mixed up with sort of gig worker and the whole sort of ride hailing food
Hmm.
delivery side of things, which I think is important. It's an area of the economy, but it's certainly not the be all and end all, and it's certainly not the sort of the full scope of what's happening in the future of work as well. So I think it's great that you have this input into so many different areas and so many different sectors.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It's a maybe someone will come up with a better term in the future that it feels more inclusive and brings,
Yeah.
more people can identify with, but we work with what we got for the time being.
We'll work with what we've got. But how does it, in terms of freelancing, and of course you've got this is the sector, the freelancers you work with, but also your own personal journey as well, Benjamin. How is the importance of building your own brand, and how do you go about it? Because there is at the moment there seems to be sort of more individuals wanting to do side hustles or be freelancers than there's actually sort of work and projects available. So how do you
Mhm.
sort of show your credentials, stand out, and be able to sort of meet the individuals with the projects and the money to be able to give you the work and the lifestyle you're looking for?
Yeah. So I would say it's really all about your online presence at the end of the day. These days, unless you work in a very face-to-face industry, it's kind of hard to ignore the fact that you need to be findable online. You need to have
Mm.
some kind of, minimum LinkedIn page or something where people can check you out, or you can send them if they're curious so they can learn more. And your online presence is really, it's not that you have to be a big star influencer and have millions of followers. It's just that you have to have a place where people, uh, number one, can be directed to learn more about you and what you do, and of course, how it is valuable to them if they're supposed to be a potential customer.
Yeah.
So it's not simply just a resume. You really have to think of it from a sales and marketing perspective. This is a person who has, I like to imagine people if they land on our website, or if they land on, our social media, LinkedIn page, whatever it might be, that they're curious and they have
Mm.
their wallet open. They're ready to take the money out, but they have to be convinced first, right?
Yes.
And so this is how I imagine, this. Your website shouldn't just say, "Hello, my name is X and I do X and I studied here and I have
Mm.
been doing X for 10 years. And by the way, here are my hobbies to make me sound like a real person. I've played the flute since I was 5 years old, blah, blah, blah." So no, people aren't on your website or on your LinkedIn page to learn about you. They're there to learn about how you can help them.
Yeah.
And so again, it's not necessarily that you have to have amassed a bunch of followers. Of course, that can help you, get more eyeballs on your
Yeah.
services and can't really be bad for your business. But you just, at the very minimum, need to have somewhere where people who are interested can be sent to, so that they can kind of peruse and be sold on you and the value of your products and services. Uh, you
Mm.
know, uh, protect, preferably at their leisure, on their phone, on their desktop, at
Yeah.
least as a first step. And then, of course, hopefully on that same website or LinkedIn page or whatever it might be, you have a button that asks them to book a call with you if they're curious to learn more, and to kind
Yeah.
of pull them closer and take that next step to becoming a potential customer.
And going back through the sort of the journey that you've had and the various experiences you've had, Benjamin, what are the best and worst elements of being a freelancer? Because we always get a lot of interesting calls from people who say that, well, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I've seen that before. These are really resonates with me because I've experienced the same kind of thing. But it'd be great to hear from you. What's some of the best and worst elements, and of course, how do you mitigate some of the worst elements?
Oh boy. I mean, the best and worst part, I would say, is that you are responsible for everything.
Mm,
And that can feel great when you are doing a good job. And that can also make you feel pretty miserable when shit hits the fan and you're
yeah,
kind of wondering, oh my God, what have I done? What have I gotten myself into? Am I going to make ends meet next month? Have I just made a catastrophic mistake with my life? What's going on? So I think it does take a certain amount of resilience. And ideally, I usually recommend people, unless you have no other option, it's really great to ease into freelancing or ease into
yeah,
starting a business, because especially if you've never done anything like this before, you don't have any background in running your own business and managing, your own setup. It putting yourself in the situation where you go from, you know, oh, I had a full-time job and I just decided to quit and now I'm freelancing. Hopefully, I'm going to start making enough money quickly enough, because if I don't, uh-oh, I've made a,
yeah,
a big mistake here. So
yeah,
starting off, maybe just kind of building up your online presence, or doing a couple of jobs on the side on the weekend and the evenings, nothing too crazy, so that you can continue to take advantage of a full-time position that you might
yeah,
already have. So because the stress, I think it's the stress is obviously the part that gets to you and is kind of impossible to mitigate at some point, because I mean, life is stressful, and everyone who works a full-time job has stress too. It's
yeah,
not that, freelancing is a unique place where people come and get stressed out and otherwise life is easy peasy. But it, of course, when you're at your full-time job and you're stressed because I don't know, your colleague didn't clean the coffee machine this week, and now you got to do it on Monday morning,
yeah,
and you just really want that cup of Joe ASAP. And of course, there are more serious issues at work, but I'll leave that little joke in there. Uh, but that's a different kind of stress. At least that with all that stress, at the end of the month, you still get your paycheck.
yes,
You could have that same amount of stress or more while you're freelancing, and then at the end of the month, maybe get no money on top of
yeah,
it. So
yeah,
that's not a situation most people really prefer to be in. And I think, yeah, if you don't make a solid plan where, again, you kind of maybe, if possible, ease into it over time, take those baby steps while you still have the security of at least a part or hopefully full-time job, that can mitigate a lot of the stress because the main stressor at the end of the day is not necessarily that customers are difficult to deal with or that you don't have enough time in the day to do all the stuff you feel you need to do because that happens to everyone in
Mm,
every position on earth, no matter who they work for, what their employment situation is. But when you couple that with the also on top of that the feeling of, oh my gosh, I don't think I'm going to make enough money this month, that's not good, that
yeah.
can really start to dig at you. And people start to get into panic mode. And of course, when you're in panic mode, you do not make better decisions than you otherwise would, and that can just kind of
Completely.
spiral out of control if you're not too careful. So
Yeah.
proceed with caution is maybe a good phrase to consider.
I think this is great advice, and of course the words of experience in there
Yes,
as
I
well.
do.
I would, I
I
would.
can raise my hand and say I did not proceed with caution. I was one of those people who just dove into the deep end of the pool and didn't think about taking the swimming lessons until after I was all wet. So yeah, I can attest having made probably every mistake you could possibly make as a person trying to build some kind of freelance career and suffering mightily over those years. That
Oh,
is, if
completely.
you can avoid it, it's best to. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Learn the mistakes of someone else so you don't have to live them yourself is usually a good
Hmm.
way of doing these things if you can, isn't it, Benjamin? Oh my goodness,
Absolutely. Oh, if I
it
could
really is.
only turn back time. But
If
yeah.
if only we could. But despite all these elements, despite the sort of uncertainty and the fact that everything's on your shoulders, this is certainly a lifestyle and a work style that seems to be on the rise as well. Why do you think that? Is it the freedom and the flexibility? What's the element that you're seeing from the people that you'll work with who are choosing the freelancer lifestyle?
I think it's not just that there's freedom and flexibility. That's always been the case. And of
Mm,
course it's getting better with technology, but the internet isn't new anymore. I think what's happening was definitely a combination of COVID. Of course, a lot of people got a taste of working from home
yeah,
and being remote that they otherwise might never have gotten, or not for another 10 to 20 years. And so suddenly the idea has popped into their mind, like, wait, what? Go back to the office? What if I could just
yeah,
stay at home? Or what if I could choose myself instead of having a boss tell me where I can and can't work? But
mm,
not just that, but also I would say just the rising amount of education and interest in this topic is pushing content related to it to the top of the algorithm on a lot of platforms, and so you're seeing a lot more of content,
yeah,
information, education about this idea of working remotely, working for yourself, freelancing, however that particular content creators is spinning it or selling it. At the end of the day, people are kind of waking up to the idea that, what, that's right, with my laptop and the internet,
yeah,
I could go anywhere. I could do anything,
yeah.
Okay, maybe I got a wife or husband and kids that I got to drag along with me and need a little more planning than that. But at the end of the day, there are so many possibilities. And what if I just sat and considered them for a minute at the very
Yeah,
least? And if I sit and consider them, maybe I'll get even more intrigued, and maybe I'll do a little research, and maybe I'll consider them further. And then maybe I just might start to take those first baby steps, like I mentioned before, of maybe trying to just grab one little project on the side and see how it feels, and
yeah,
continue down that path until suddenly I'm working remotely completely, working for myself, or even again working remotely just for uh, another business is already a big change in lifestyle for a lot of
yeah,
people. So it's not necessarily that you have to be freelancing, but all these new companies who are realizing, wow, if we offer remote work, we're going to get a lot more interested candidates because people really enjoy this. So I think the landscape of work in general, not just for people who are self-employed, is changing.
absolutely. And how, you see companies and organizations within this space as well, who's adapting to the future of work well? I mean, not to give specific names, but do you see some companies and organizations that are doing this better? They understand about giving remote work opportunities, flexibility, maybe having a freelancer strategy so they can have a mixture of full-time employees,
Mm.
contractors, freelancers. Do you see that the organizations are getting more with the reality of what's happening today?
That's hard to say. I think there are many, many attempts being made to move in this direction, but
Yeah.
it's still early days. And so you see a lot of sloppiness and you see a lot of policies being rolled out that are suddenly rolled right back in because they realized, oh, wait a second, this isn't working as well as we thought it was. So you got the
Yeah.
shiny object syndrome going on. So I think over time there people will hopefully start to find a balance and I also don't like to necessarily sell freelancing or remote work in general as this amazing, cure all to life's problems.
Right.
I've heard of many people who are like, oh yeah, my work shut down our main office, and now we just like rent co-working spaces, and I work from home most of the week. But I don't like it. I personally
Yeah.
would. I like to go to the office, see my colleagues, I like, have coffee with them, have lunch with them, and instead now I sit at home by myself all day. Like that's not very
Yeah.
enjoyable. So not everybody is really interested in
Mm.
this. And so I think companies are going to have to grapple with that in the future. So uh, how do we choose, number one, whether to do all office,
Yeah.
all remote work, hybrid situation? And once we do choose, how do we make sure we can, find the right talent and the right people that gel with that and are going to be satisfied over time?
Mm. It's definitely a ongoing process, it really is something that is a movable feast as well. It's not to say that you get it right and that's it, because different people have different expectations, and I think sort of
Bingo.
being able to adapt all the time to this. But I think for everyone, it's the same thing. It's that sort of companies and organizations need to attract the right talent. And this could be different people with different skills, knowledge, and expertise. But to be able to give them the format that works for them, that's also going to be something that's very important.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So it's definitely, I would say we're still in the learning phase, the discovery phase of this
Yeah.
movement towards flexibility in the workplace, especially location-based flexibility. So
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how it all pans out. The trend is obvious. We're definitely moving more towards
Yeah.
the possibility for remote, the possibility to work from home, more flexibility. But that's not to say it will be, like I said, a silver bullet solution that'll make everybody happy right away. Far from it.
Definitely not. But Benjamin, we're on the same journey, going along that same track and working it out as we go along. So it's great that you can share your thoughts and experiences in this sector. Really appreciate it. And hopefully you'll come back and share some more insights as the twists and turns of the future of work continue down this path.
I'd be happy to.
Excellent, sir. Well, thank you very much indeed for your time, and good luck to you on that.
Thank you.